Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and many of you have been asking me for another What's on my iPhone. We'll go over the different apps I use, how I lay things out, and also maybe talk about some iPad apps that I use as well, since we'll cover that all in the same video. Now, for any of you who've been following me for any amount of time, you'll notice that my home screen layout doesn't change a whole lot. In fact, I'm using the 15 Pro Max in natural titanium because this has iOS 17.2.1 on it, and this blue one has iOS 17.3 Beta 1. So I thought I'd test this out, see what battery life is like since we've had them for a while now. And so I'm testing this out. We'll talk about battery in the weekend follow-up video, but as far as the home screen layout, it's pretty much the same I've had for quite some time. And that's because all of the apps I use the most are on my main screen. So if we start from the top, you'll see I have phone, and that's at the top because I don't use it that much. Despite it being iPhone, that's probably one of the features I use the least on this phone. Of course, I have my photos here, and then I have the new weather widget, which I really like, just giving it a little bit more information here. And then I have the camera app, and then an app called Craft. Craft is an app that I keep my notes in. You'll see here where this is my iPhone 15 Pro review. It's laid out nicely. It sort of has an outline look to it. Things are organized and very easy to read. So that's why I've been using this. And there's also companion apps on the iPad and Mac, and everything just syncs seamlessly like the Notes app. I just like the way it looks a little bit better, and you can also collaborate with it as well, but I think it just looks really nice, so I've been using that for about a year or so. Of course, we have reminders. I don't use that a ton. And then just stock Apple apps across. Clock, Home, Apple Store, or App Store rather. And then in the Home app, I have my Office, and I also have my Home here too. So depending where I'm at, I can control both areas, but it's really nice to use for that. And then if we go over here, I have the Church app. Then I have Discord, which I have a Discord server linked in the description. Gmail, ways to manage YouTube with YouTube Studio and YouTube itself. Then also cars to either unlock the cars, see the cars, things like that, as I'm really into cars, and this kind of gives you an idea of what I'm using here. But Tesla, that's my wife's car, and then Porsche and Audi. And then also I have Instagram here, along with X or Twitter, which I use quite often, along with others. And then the fitness app, which is here more for inspiration to try and maybe lose some weight. And then the podcasts app. I've tried many different podcasts app, and there are others that are better, but I typically use the Apple one just to try out new features when they come out. So it works pretty good. It's not my favorite, but it works okay. On page 2, this is where I use a bunch of different apps. I often swap these in and out, but again, a bunch of different Apple apps across the top. And then we have things in games. Now, mostly these games are actually to test out features on the iPhone, as I typically, if I'm playing games on an iOS or iPadOS device, it would be on a 12.9-inch iPad Pro. I like the larger screen. I rarely, if ever, play games on the phone itself, and that's mostly just due to the screen size. Of course, Apple Watch. Then we have health, TV, and stocks. And then under social networking, we have everything else, such as WhatsApp that I use to communicate with some people overseas, Signal, which I don't use a lot, Ivory, Blue Sky, Hive, and Threads. Threads probably is slowly making its way to the main screen, depending on how many people actually are switching to that. But it looks like it's the #1 social media app right now, at least in the App Store for that. So maybe I'll need to switch that up. I do go into that quite a bit now. We, of course, have Freeform, and I'm not sure anybody uses Freeform that much. I personally haven't since they actually released it, but it's there. And then Chronicling. Now, I don't really use this. I installed it meaning to use it, but I never tried it out. So it's just an app that was free to try, so I thought I'd try it out and just never really used it. We have Geekbench, of course, as I cover those in my videos. Books, Apple's support app, FaceTime, Google, Telegram, which again, I have a Telegram channel that I use a lot, so that's there. And then we have MetaQuest, or Notes, and then MetaQuest. And MetaQuest, of course, goes along with the MetaQuest 2 and 3 that I've had for a while now. And then the Journal app. Now, I still have not really used the Journal app. In fact, on this phone, I've never even opened it since switching over to this phone. So it's nice that it's there. I'll probably use it more in the future, but right now, I was really waiting for it to release to the public before I actually started using it. And then I have Eero, which is a way to manage my Wi-Fi network. If we go into it, you can see some things here. I have 3 Eero Max 7 routers here, and that gives me Wi-Fi 7 and has coverage over my whole house, and then it shows all of the different devices connected as well. It's a really good app, very simple, and reminds me a lot of Apple's Airport when that was available. That's why I use Eero lately. Of course, on the bottom, I didn't mention those before, but messages I use the most, Safari, Mail, and then music. Pretty much my most used apps there, with the exception of a few things here on the main screen. If we go to the third screen, well, there isn't a third screen. Everything else is basically in the app library. So if I need something else, I typically find myself scrolling, or I'll go in here and just type. Maybe I need something such as, well, let's take a look here at maybe the App Store or the Apple Store. I just search it that way typically if I need the app, but these are apps I don't use as much. But I do have quite a few different apps here, everything from Arc 2 that controls sort of a motion camera holder that I have, authenticators, Carly to diagnose cars, lots of different things, Chat GPT. If we keep going, you'll see, of course, Find My, things like that, and many more. So lots of different apps on here. We have Kernel as well, other apps. Yeah, many that I've used for years, but I don't use all the time, but it's helpful to have them. So this one, for example, Rove, that's actually controlling a motion slider. So that's something I use quite a bit, but I don't need all the time. And again, if I keep scrolling through, you can see all of the different apps here. So nothing really phenomenal on here, but that's typically what I have for a layout. I'm also in the YouTube Studio app quite often, talking to you or responding to comments and things like that. Now, when it comes to the iPad, let's take a look at that. On the iPad, you've probably seen this layout before, and it's very similar to what I have on my iPhone. So basically very similar apps with Telegram and Discord at the bottom, podcasts, Twitter or X, and the things I use most. In fact, I use my iPad typically either for taking notes, watching YouTube, learning some things there, or basically just using it for Safari. This is kind of what I use when I'm not actually editing video, to sort of do research, take a look at different things that are coming out and things like that. So you'll see I only have one page. I used to have a bunch, but it was very unorganized. So I just have my weather widget in the upper left, a widget for music, and then basically stock apps with a few others. If we go into the app library, this is mostly a consumption/learning or note-taking device. So I have different things such as Microsoft Teams or Google Meet. That's for doing different video calls that I might need to join. We have this really great app called Axoon C that allows me to record from a camera directly to the iPad using HDMI. You need an accessory for it, but it's something that works great. If we scroll down, you've got things from Amazon. You've got Apple Music Classical, DaVinci Resolve, which I haven't really used, but it's on here, and different media, Final Cut Pro. Again, I haven't really used it on here. My main limitation with Final Cut Pro is I can't use plugins, so the different titles and things you see in these videos won't show up if I was to use it on the iPad version because they're just not available. And again, as I scroll down, LumaFusion, again, another video editing app, and mostly consumption devices along with Photomator, which is really something that's pretty great if you want to draw on here, touch up a photo, and then Procreate as well for drawing. So if we keep scrolling down, you'll see not a ton on my iPad. I use it most of the time for YouTube, Safari, and that's pretty much it. I use it a lot for note-taking as well. So I have Craft on here as well down at the bottom, where again it syncs with my iPhone. So those are my main apps that I use from day to day. And this is where I wanted to ask you, is there any apps you would suggest that might help, whether that's with social media, even things such as Telegram or Discord, or something else? I'd love to hear from you in the comments below what you would recommend, maybe some new games you've tried out on the iPhone or iPad. I'd love to hear what you have to say in the comments below, as I'd love to try out some new apps and see what we've got. It's been a while since I changed things up, so I'd love to hear from you there. Of course, I'll link this wallpaper in the description like I normally do, and if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.